You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah!
Hello and welcome to But I Digress, where sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain. I am Nathan, call me Nate Marchand. As you can see, after filming a few movie review episodes I should say, at the home of my friend Sergio Garza, I'm back at my usual writer's roost, which I affectionately call the nerdery. But even then, this isn't going to be a typical episode of But I Digress. I decided that this year, since I normally do a video about Gen Con, which is the giant gaming convention I go to every year to sell my books, that I would make that video an actual episode of But I Digress. And this year, I decided to conduct a series of interviews with my fellow contributing authors to the Missing Pieces anthology. This is a short story collection put together every year, this is my third year being in it, of stories written by the authors who go to Authors Avenue at Gen Con to sell their books. These are usually stories that bridge gaps between books in their book series, or actually detail the backstories of the characters in their books, things like that, hence the title, Missing Pieces. However, the anthology is being done a little bit differently this year. But you don't have to take my word for it, you can hear it straight from the authors themselves. Cue that beautiful footage.
Hello there. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, my name is Rocco. I'm the editor-in-chief of Dragon Roots magazine. That's a magazine that I wrote initially to take the place of Dragon and Dungeon in a printed format. Printing costs kind of got sky high on me, so I had to fold the magazine. But what came out of it was Missing Pieces, which is an anthology of short stories written by the authors in Authors Avenue. Most of the pieces are backstories on their favorite characters, or something that might be the beginning of a novel, or bridge books 1 and 2 together. So it's stories written inside the world that they care about and that they write about. So if you find something that you enjoy in here, you can go pick up that author's regular works and be familiar with the characters in the world in which they write. It's a great way to test drive the authors without having to commit to a full-length novel.
Yeah. Well, you're not only the editor and founder, but you're also a contributor. So tell us a bit about your story in this year's anthology.
I am. It's fun. So my story this year is Conflicted Judgment. I have a curse in the first novel where women are they're able to become pregnant with child but not give birth. Oh. And each of the different nations handles that in a different way. One of the nation that this one in particular deals with is they have inquisitors that go out and they round up all the women who are pregnant and they deal with them in a certain way. And this lady's whole thing is the theme this year is missing. Her theme, the story fits the theme because she's missing empathy towards these women, and you'll see that it's pretty apparent when you actually read the story.
Yeah. So how'd you get the idea for the story?
I've had the idea kicking in my head for quite a long time, and I actually wrote it when I went out to Vegas. I was at a sign convention, and Maxwell Alexander Drake happens to live in Las Vegas. And we went out there, and I looked at his book. He's got a new book called, it's a creative writing book. I think he's got an excerpt in here actually for it. I'll see if I can pull that up while we're talking. But he's got there it is, Dynamic Story Creation. And he gave me the first third of that when I was out there. We ran over it, and since I was out there anyway, I took one morning to write the story in like broad strokes, and I went over the themes that he had in his book. And we examined not only his book, but my story, and we kind of fleshed everything out, and the end result was this, which I think I'm pretty proud of. It's one of my better pieces. So every year we do something a little bit different for bonus material, because I always like to give back to the author or to the readers something a little extra. So this year's extra material is a Mad Lib. Since the theme is missing, the extra on here is missing words and a short story that you get to complete. So that's one of the bonuses here.
All right. Very cool. Thanks a lot, Rocco.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hello, guys.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
We're Beth and Ed Russell, writers out of Indiana. I do most of the writing, she does most of the editing. and my daughter does some of the artwork for the books.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of a family affair.
Oh. Well, that's interesting. All right. Tell us a little bit about the story you have in Missing Pieces this year.
The story Missing Pieces this year is called Sedge, and it follows the aftermath of an event in this book, Culture of the Return. It takes a character that's not in this book and follows what happens to him when the characters in this book go through their adventure. So it's a side piece. It's a missing piece.
Okay. And where did you get the idea for the story?
A Star Wars, actually.
Really?
You know, people have often talked about all the stormtroopers on the Death Star when it blew up.
Yeah.
And, you know, Sedge happens to be the child of what's considered the bad guys in the book.
Oh my God, you're just...
So how does all this affect him when the good guys take out the bad guys?
Oh.
But in his mind, his dad has always been a good guy.
Oh. I like that idea.
I wanted to explore that.
Great idea. And how does it fit in with the theme this year, or does it?
Well, his father's missing.
Oh.
So he needs to try and find his father.
Excellent. All right. Thanks a lot, you two.
No problem. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Robert Geiger. I'm from Illinois, and I've been out here at Gen Con for a few years now, and it's good to be here.
All right. Now tell us a little bit about the story you have in Missing Pieces this year.
The story that's collected in Missing Pieces is called Full Moon's Glow. It's essentially a small, short action story pertaining to a man and his struggles with a family murder that happened and coming to terms with supernatural forces that he doesn't understand.
Ah. How did you get the idea for the story?
It's actually an old one. I started writing fiction several years ago, and I found one of the older stories I was writing and decided to brush it off, edit it up, and it essentially is the beginning point of a certain vampire hunter timeline I've been working on for several years, but I've only done short stories so far.
Okay, and how does it fit in with the theme for this year's Missing Pieces?
Let's see here. The theme is missing,
Yes.
and the main character's family member goes missing one night after the tragedy that happened to him.
All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Hello.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jay Erickson, and I write an epic fantasy series known as the Blood Wizard Chronicles.
Oh, you're not Harry Dresden?
I am Harry Dresden today.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the story you have in this year's Missing Pieces.
This year's Missing Pieces is about Zexiel Bontaine, this gentleman right here. What it is a prequel to Pariah, which explains how the wizard Zexiel was near Birmingham at the time that Ashen, the main character of the story, had an accident. But it was always kind of a vague part of the story of why he happened to ironically be there.
All right. How'd you get the idea for the story?
I got the idea from the story actually as it was cut from the original book.
Oh.
Not due to any size constraints, but it just didn't fit the overall theme. Most of the perspective of Pariah is done from Ashen.
Oh, so it's a deleted scene.
Correct.
All right. And how does it fit in with this year's theme for Missing Pieces?
He's actually tracking a lost artifact, and he has to find it before the person who has it kills a bunch of people.
You could also say it fits in because it's a missing part of the story.
Part of the story.
Yeah, because you took it out of the book. All right, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Lee French. I write fantasy and science fiction, and I live in Seattle, Washington.
All right. And tell us a little about the story you have in Missing Pieces.
The story I have in Missing Pieces is out of my book called Al-Kabar, which is Joan of Arc meets Arabian Nights plus magic story. And it is sort of a backstory explanation of how one of the secondary characters winds up getting connected to a rat.
Oh. Where'd you get the idea for the story?
The idea came from a Fate game, Fate Core, that we ran it was an Arabian Nights style game, and this particular character, the secondary one, was my character in the game, who was Tajis, the Prince of Rats.
All All right, and how does it fit in with this year's theme for Missing Pieces?
Well, in the story, his sister has been taken away from him. His parents are dead. So his sister is kind of missing, and he's kind of missing a piece of his heart because of it. She's really the only person that matters in his whole life. So it's kind of about his search to find a way to get her back.
Aw, I like it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm C.S. Marks. I am an author of the Elf Hunter series, and I also perform original music, which I'm doing here at the con, and do some illustrating, so I kind of do a lot of different things.
All right. Now, tell us a little about the story you have in this year's Missing Pieces.
It's actually a poem. It's a very dark sort of a poem involving the main villain in the Elf Hunter series, and I decided, 2 pages was probably enough out of me.
The doors are about to open.
Thank you.
The doors are about to open. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
go figure.
Yeah,
All right, so where'd you get the idea for the poem?
Well, I mean, Gorgon is an endless wellspring of ideas. He's a wonderful villain, and I could write poems about him between now and the end of the world, so
All right.
it wasn't much of a struggle at all.
All right. How does it fit in with this year's theme, or does it?
It does.
Okay.
The whole reference in the poem to the missing has to do with the victims that this very, very nasty, wasty fellow has eliminated, and he tends to do it in a way that these people may never be found. So he has his own private gloat fest over these lost loved ones that nobody will ever find, and that's kind of where the theme of missing comes in.
All right. Thanks a lot.
You're most
Hello,
welcome.
sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, good morning. I'm Pete Luya. I'm an author from Wilmington, North Carolina. I have a background in hospitality, education, and sales. And I write with my best friend Roger Sicily, and we are the authors of the Amaron Chronicles, a 5-book series that's a fantasy sci-fi series.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the story you have in Missing Pieces this year.
Well, the story I have in Missing Pieces is about 3 people, 2 young men and 1 woman a little bit older, in search they're searching for an answer. They're searching for, their quest is somewhat sublime, but they're looking for a sorcerer's crypt to find what will save their civilization from an impending evil.
Okay. So how does it? Where'd you get the idea for the story? I should ask.
Well, the idea is a take on the Amaron Chronicles. It takes place with some of the characters 300 years in the future.
Okay. So how does it fit in with the theme for Missing Pieces this year, or does it?
Oh, well, it does. I mean, something's missing and they're searching for it.
Okay.
And there's some ambiguity as to what they're actually searching for.
Okay. No, it's as simple as that. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
You're very welcome, Nathan.
Hello.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Hans Cummings, author-publisher of BFF Publishing, writer of fantasy and science fiction.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the story you have in this year's Missing Pieces.
The story in this year's Missing Pieces is called Burble's Big Day. It's kind of a prequel to Malediction. It takes place right before this book does. And it features one of the main characters from this series, well, from all of the fantasy series, a little lizard man named Kale, who gets tasked with babysitting his friend's child for a day, and he finds out how completely unprepared he is for such a task. It turns out to be one of the greatest challenges of his life.
Oh, I bet. So does it go with the theme this year, or?
Yeah, because it's Missing Pieces, and the baby goes missing.
Ah, see?
Because Kale is such an irresponsible caretaker.
Okay, and where'd you get the idea for the story?
And it just sort of came to me. I didn't like hem and haw over it. It's like, this seems like this would be a fun thing to do. Just a real light, fluffy piece, because these 2 novels get pretty serious. They kind of live up to the names. So I thought that would be a good switch, just something fun.
All right, thanks a lot.
Sure.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Tom Gandolfi. I'm the owner of Tan Staffel Press, and I am also the author of Toy Boxes in Missing Pieces.
Ah, okay. I was about to ask. Please tell us a little bit about the story you have in this year's Missing Pieces.
Yeah, so Toy Boxes is kind of a glue piece between the two novels I have of Toy Wars and its sequel, Toy Reservations.
All right. So, how does your story fit in with this year's theme in Missing Pieces?
It doesn't.
Ah.
I had actually already written the story before Missing Pieces had decided on a theme, and I had already turned it in, and so I said, that's what I've got to give you, and they said, okay.
Where'd you come up with the idea for the story?
Well, the story, like I said, it's a glue piece for between the two stories. In story one, a group of people, for want of a better word, get exiled for their religious beliefs. And they come back in the second book, and the glue piece is how they managed to be able to come back.
Ah. All right, thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely.
Hello. Tell me a little bit about yourselves.
Well, I'm the author of Green Light to Paradise. It's my newest book.
What's your name?
My name is Ryan Warnick, and sorry, that was terrible. And I enjoy playing a lot of games, so I come out to Gen Con every year.
All right.
I won all the way over.
And then you?
I'm Catherine Fitzsimmons. I am the author of Enduring Chaos, from which my short story in this year's Missing Pieces, Shadows Behind the Mask, originates.
All right. So tell me about the stories that you have in this year's Missing Pieces.
My story is basically an examination of one of the secondary characters, third characters that is in my novel. It explores how she got to the point she has, in which she frightens everybody. And it's really just kind of a backdrop on what's happening in the world.
All right, your turn, Catherine.
So my story, Shadows Behind the Mask, takes place a few years before my first book, Enduring Chaos. And for the themed anthologies of the next 4 years, I decided to tell the stories behind some of the more prominent artifacts and items established in the world. And so I started with one that seemed most interesting to readers, which is the amulet that one of the secondary characters, Domino, wears.
So actually, one of the questions I was going to ask was, how does it fit in with the theme this year, if it does? Well, you were kind of hinting at that, so you can go first, Catherine.
Yeah, so it's the theme this year is missing. So the main character is hired to recover some magical artifacts that were stolen. And for the rest, well, you'll have to read the story.
How about you?
Mine was more or less showing that what this character was missing in her life. She's unaware of what she's missing out on, and it's going over a great deal of time. So by the time she realizes, it's almost too late.
All right. And where'd you get the idea for your respective stories?
I actually fumbled through a lot of ideas before I found one, and it was more or less just last minute. I got the idea after examining different timelines and different ideas. Nothing really worked. This one just kind of spur of the moment, a thought that maybe I can illustrate what's missing with this character. And it wrote itself fairly quickly once I managed to pin down the settings.
Okay. Catherine?
So for my story, the idea, as I said, mainly came from the theme and kind of fitting to the theme, but it was also a story that had kind of been in the background of the character but never written for quite a while, and it shows the beginning of a turning point in his life before he becomes the character he is in Enduring Chaos. So he's actually a fair bit different in the short story than he is in the book, and some of that is explained in the book.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Kay Wolf Scott, author of the Children of Alberon series.
Right, and you've contributed to this year's Missing Pieces. Can you tell us a little bit about your story this year?
My story, The Destiny Flame, is about the great wizard of Erebos, Eric, and he has gone missing following the book The Sodality, which is the prequel to my series.
So that's how it fits in with the theme this year of missing, correct?
That is how it fits.
All right. How did you get the idea for the story?
I had some questions about what happened to him afterwards, and I wanted to kind of fill in that gap a little bit to give the reader a promo of what happened in between the Sodality and when he shows up again in the series.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Christine Haggerty. I am an author of dark fantasy and horror and epic fantasy. I have been a teacher, creative writing, and karate instructor for several years. So my specialty in teaching is fight scenes. The story that I have in the Missing Pieces Gen Con anthology is the beginning of a dark epic fantasy that involves a lot of Japanese mythology in the magic. And the story in this current one is part of what will become the prequel to that series, called The Mortality Strain. And it's about how magic gets into the world originally, and it was very strongly influenced by the ElfQuest concept of elves and their story. So elves in my story are aliens, and it fits into the theme at the end. Something very critical to their magic system is missing.
Ah, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So there you have it. But now it's time that I answered my own questions myself for you. Obviously you already know who I am, so I can skip that one. As for my story, well, something that even Rocco didn't explain, which surprised me a bit, was that he actually has a 4-year plan going for the themes for Missing Pieces. This year it is Missing, next year it is Pieces, the year after that it is Puzzles, and then the year after that it is Promises. So I decided that I would write a 4-part serial that will be published each year in the anthology. So yes, my story this year ends on a cliffhanger, and you'll have to wait 3 more years before you find out what happens at the end. But I promise you, if things go as planned, it will be worth the wait, and it'll be a compelling read. So, what exactly is my story? Well, it takes place within a science fiction universe that I have been building and kind of playing around with since I was in college. And I've written a couple of stories that take place in this universe, but my ultimate goal was to use it as a backdrop to write a grand space opera book series, because I'm kind of a sucker for space operas, and I haven't really written something that, something like that before. Well, really, I have probably, but nothing quite that ambitious and big. So, this story actually predates the other stories that I have written that take place in this universe, and kind of explain some of the history and the technology that you see in those later stories, or more specifically, how some of that technology was developed and also discovered along the way. The concept in this is based off of one of the other stories that have featured a pilot using cybernetic implants to interface with an AI in a mech. So, in this one, you will have a young man who has been cybernetically bonded to an unwanted fiancé who has gone missing on a distant, hostile planet about which little is known, and now for reasons that he can't quite understand, he actually can hear her calling for help across the cosmos, and now feels compelled to hijack a ship and go off to this planet in order to save her because she has gone missing and nobody else thinks that she's alive. So, it should be an exciting tale. I'm looking forward to writing the subsequent parts. And I really do hope that you will pick up this anthology, and the previous ones if you want. They should be available on Amazon. If they're not there, you can find them at www.dragonroots.net. And I can tell you right now, most of the authors that you saw in that video are great friends of mine. I've known them for a while, and they very much deserve your support and your readership. So I hope you will pick up the anthology. Anyway, thank you for joining me on But I Digress. This is Nate Marchand, signing off.